Alright, slope of a line today. Our learning target for slope of a line is going to be students can find and compare the slopes of lines. So let's make that slopes. Slopes of lines. Okay, so make sure you write that down. I'm going to move on to the first slide. If you need to pause, go ahead. Slope of a line. Okay. First, let's talk about comparing slopes. You read slopes like you read a book. You always read them left to right. So when you're looking at the slopes, you want to start on the left side, and you want to look to the right side and go to the right. And that's how you're going to determine what type of slope it is. Okay, so I have 4 examples of the types of slopes that we can have. In the first example here, in the upper left-hand corner, I have a positive slope. It is a positive slope because it is rising as you go left to right. So if I was imagine somebody walking on this, and they were walking up, there's my sweet thing, they would be going up. That makes it a positive slope because it's going up as they're walking to the left. All right. In our second example here, to the right of the positive slope, we have our negative slope. So if I have my guy walking on my negative slope, they're going down left to right because that's falling. So that makes it a negative slope. Okay, so if it goes up, left to right, it's positive. If it goes down, it is negative. The last 2 examples on the bottom here, first we have a zero slope. So zero slope, guys, is a horizontal line. Alright, and remember that a horizontal line is when you have y equals a number. Okay, and that's our horizontal line. In our last example, we have an undefined slope, and that's a vertical line. Also, this is not a function. Okay, and that's when x equals something that gives us our vertical line. So notice that's the only one that doesn't have a y variable in it, and that one ends up to be an undefined slope. And I'll show you later why it is undefined. Okay, so that's how we compare the slopes. So go ahead and draw the pictures. You don't have to draw the little guys. You might want to put the notes about rising, falling, and horizontal and vertical on there. But those are 4 types of slopes that we can have. So when we find answers, I'm going to ask you, is it a positive slope, negative slope, zero slope, undefined? You need to be able to identify them. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to the next slide. Okay, how do you find the slope of a line? Well, first thing I need to talk about is this m here. M stands for slope. So anytime you see a variable m when we're talking about equations here, that's going to stand for slope. So that's a very important thing to know. Okay, and then to find the slope, you have to have 2 points on your line. So I have my given points here. So they're both x, y, but I marked them with little 1s and 2, little subscript there with 1s and 2s, so we know which x is for which point. So I have my 2 points, my x, y coordinates, whatever they are, plug them in with real numbers as we go on. Okay, and so I have 2 points. I have point 1 and I have point 2. Okay, so my first point and second point. Okay, to find the slope of the lines, you are going to do the y's. Subtract the y's on top, you're going to subtract the x's, and that's going to be the bottom. The answer to that will tell you what your slope is. We also call that the rise over the run. The rise, meaning going up or down, okay, over the run, which is kind of like our right to left. Alright, and that's going to be our slope. So we do our up and down over our right to left, and that tells us our slope. Here's the key when you're subtracting your y's and you're subtracting your x's. Notice that the same number has to be first. The other number has to be second. Okay, and that's not just by accident that I wrote that. These must match when you're doing your work to find them. Okay, and so you're going to use that equation y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to find your slope. Sometimes you'll hear people say change in y's over change in x's. Okay, or rise over run. Those are all different phrases that you might hear to help remind you to find the slope. The slope we call is the m. Okay, so when we talk about slope intercept, that'll become important for us. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to go over some examples now. Okay, here's our first example. We really only have one example. We're just finding the slope today. And so I got 2 examples on this page. So let's go over the first one. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract my y. So remember, I have my x and my y and my x and my y. So I'm going to put the 5 first because I would try to keep the top number positive. That'll help. So I'm going to do 5 minus 2. Those are my y's. Okay, 5 minus 2. Now I'm going to work with my x's. Here's the key. Because I put 5 first, I have to put the 4 first in the denominator because they're from the same ordered pair. So that has to be 4 minus 1. I don't get to just decide what I want to do, so I always have a positive answer. Alright? In this case, it ends up, and it will be a positive answer. So then I do 5 minus 2 is 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. So my slope is 3 over 3, which can be simplified to 1. Okay? As a note, we do no mixed numbers. Okay? No mixed numbers. You can have whole numbers, and you can have fractions or improper fractions, but no mixed numbers. That's not going to help us when we get to graphing. So you don't have to do that, and that'll actually save you a step. Okay? So that would be a positive slope. Why? 1 is positive. So this is a positive slope. So if I was visualizing this in my head, my slope of this line would go up, left to right. So that would be the kind of line that I would have. Okay? And B. So I'm going to do this one. So I'm going to do negative 3 minus 1. It doesn't matter, which way you're going to go. So I'm going to do negative 3 minus 1. And that is going to be 3 minus 0 on the bottom, because that one first, so that one first. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. 3 minus 0 is 3. So I get negative 4 thirds, and that's my slope. Now I want to show you in this example, what happens if you said, well, I want to do 0, 1 first. I want to do 1 minus negative 3 first. 1 minus negative 3. So I just said this one is first in this example. 0 minus 3, so then I have to switch the bottom. Notice that in both examples, the 1 and the 0 are either first or second, and the negative 3 and the 3 line up on theirs. Okay, when I do that math, 1 minus negative 3 is 4. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Oh, look at that. 4 divided by negative 3 is negative 4 thirds. Either way, I get the same. And you can see that this will be a negative slope. So in your mind, if you were to graph this, you should know that your line should look like that. Okay, if you need to pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going on to the last slide. Okay, in the last slide, got 2 more examples here. Okay, in the first one, I'm going to do 3 minus 3. Oh, which 3 did I use? It doesn't matter. I'm going to say I did this one first, because then I'm going to do 4 minus 1 in the bottom. That's going to give me 0 over 3. Well, 0 divided by 3 is 0, so this has a slope of 0. So what kind of line is this going to be? This is going to be a horizontal line. A slope of 0 is a 0 slope. That's a horizontal line, so I should know that this slope was going to look like this. Alright, and that's how you do that. Okay, in example D, I'm going to subtract my y's, so I'm going to do 3. I'm going to do that one first, minus negative 1, over 2 minus 2. That's going to give me 4 over 0. I cannot divide by 0. I can't break things into equal groups of 0, so that's going to be undefined, so that gives me an undefined slope. What does that mean? Oh, you should know that that is going to be a line like this. So this was a horizontal line for C, and D was a vertical line. Okay, and you can see there's the math, and that's why it's undefined sloped, because you cannot divide by 0, and that's why you end up with that. Okay, so that's how you find the slope, guys. Change in y's over change in x's. Make sure that each ordered pair lines up. And if you have any questions or anything, go back and watch the video again. Otherwise, have a great night, and I will see you guys later.